I'm Steve Smith. I work for Worcestershire County Museum based at Hartlebury Castle. We're now working in conjunction with Worcester City Museum, and we call Museums Worcestershire, and this is our resource centre. We deal with various different objects, from metalwork to woodwork and fabrics, textiles, and we'll try to show you how we best store them. They all require different conditions, and we try to store them to their best effect. At the moment I'm standing in amongst our more robust and larger items, and when you're paying per square foot for storage, the only direction to go is upwards. So I'm standing underneath one of two mezzanine floors, one of which houses part of the city collection and the other one part of the county collection. I'm now standing on top of one of the mezzanine floors, and the floor loading for this mezzanine floor is about 3/4 of a metric tonne per square metre, so we're able to store fairly large, heavy palletised objects up here. Again, on the theme of paying per square foot, we've gone as high as we can. We've installed mobile shelving. We have about 3/4 of a mile of shelving in such a small area. We've had to go up as high as we can, which requires special safety steps. We store our social history collection in a social history classification, and as you can see, the shelves are absolutely chock-a-block. Large heavy objects need large heavy shelving, and they need large heavy equipment to move them about. So we have a pedestrianised electrical pallet truck. We're inside one of our temperature-controlled stores. This is a furniture store, and we've got 4 stores. They're super insulated to buffer the contents from the outside atmospheric conditions. We use conservation heating system, which uses temperature to control relative humidity. Furniture likes to be slightly damper than a lot of other parts of the collection, so consequently the temperature in here is slightly lower. We constantly monitor for wood-boring beetles, common furniture beetle and woodworm, which are all the same thing really, but different names. And we monitor for those every spring, and we treat any fresh infestation or any exit holes with compounds in the spring. On the subject of woodworm, once wooden objects have been treated with one of our various compounds that we use, they are then wrapped and sealed in clear polythene so that they can be monitored for any fresh activity, either beetles lying in the bottom of the polythene or fresh frass, which is a very dry white powder normally seen with woodworm, which collects in the bottom of the polythene enclosure. We're now in our second controlled store, which houses costume. We store costume in 2 different ways. More delicate costume is stored in acid-free boxes and wrapped in acid-free tissue. The less delicate we usually hang in Tyvek bags. One of the problems that all museums have, and many households in Britain and other parts of the world, are moths, common clothes moths. Moths tend to eat natural fabrics. Museums store lots of natural fabrics, so they are a major pest. We have lots of traps around which have pheromones in, which attract moths in, and they contain sticky tape, and the moths get stuck on the tape. So although a few years ago it was a major problem in this museum, it's now less of a problem than it was. One very effective tool for dealing with many museum pests is a good quality industrial freezer. This one we have, it goes down to -45 degrees. Most domestic ones are down to about -18. That's just not cold enough to do any real damage. We keep this freezer turned on all the time, and any objects that go into it are sealed in polythene completely, and they're immersed in it at -45 degrees, not at room temperature. They're kept in there for a minimum of 2 weeks, and then they're allowed to come back to room temperature over a period of about 24 hours before they're unwrapped. Some of the most difficult objects for museums to look after are made from metals. We try to protect these objects by putting them in a microclimate inside a sealed plastic box with indicating silica gel. The silica gel then absorbs the moisture in the environment surrounding the object. When it starts to become damp, it turns blue. We then regenerate it and it goes back to pink, and we put more sachets in to absorb the relative humidity. Even though the museum objects in this store are boxed and on shelving, it's not the end of the story. There is no end to the story. Museum staff will be constantly checking boxes and objects out of boxes for any deterioration or decay or pest invasion. In fact, a lot of the objects that are on storage will eventually end up on display.